Hello everyone and welcome back to DC Central, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down and reviewing The Flash Season 6 Episode 19, otherwise entitled Success is Assured, and otherwise known as the season finale for The Flash Season 6, so make sure you have seen the episode before proceeding with this review, as it will be filled with spoilers. So we finally made it through yet another season of The Flash here, guys, and it's kind of crazy, you know. I started covering this show back in Season 3, and we're now at the end of Season 6. It's kind of crazy, and in that time, obviously, we've had Arrow come and go. Just a lot of different interesting things have gone on in that time. But with The Flash Season 6, we now have its conclusion. Of course, this wasn't the, it wasn't the conclusion that we hoped for, necessarily. It wasn't the conclusion that the writers hoped to give us, as the season was unfortunately cut short due to the pandemic and things like that. But, you know, it was said by Grant Gustin and by Eric Wallace that episode 19 was decided on as the season finale, as it did serve, in their eyes, as a pretty good ending for this season. And in my opinion, I actually think they were absolutely right with that decision. I think this is actually a very strong finale, given the fact that it technically isn't one. I think that it actually does a really good job of wrapping some things up. Of course, it doesn't wrap everything up, absolutely, because of course it wasn't meant to, but it does wrap up some things in a way which then sets up other things to go forward, which will be wrapped up in the, what I'm assuming are the first sort of handful of episodes of Season 7. So let's dive in. So what's going on in this episode is we have Carver actually being targeted by the light matters that he had been controlling throughout this season. It turns out that actually Eva has managed to turn them against Carver, and Carver now needs protection, so Barry is actually the one going after to protect him. And I have to say, I actually like this dynamic, because Carver is a character that I've not exactly been kind to. I think Carver has been a very weak villain in the sense that I just haven't really got a vibe of him. He's been very in the background, and when we have seen him, which was mainly in episode 16, he was extremely over the top in terms of his acting. I don't know if that was the choice by the actor or if it was a direction thing, but in this episode, I actually really liked Carver. He improved way more for me. He was still a bit over the top and a bit, you know, cartoony for my liking, but I still really actually enjoyed his dynamic with Barry and also the other members of the team, because he is a really big arsewipe, so to see him just kind of interact with the other characters I thought was fun, and I liked having him involved in the team in that way, even if it was only temporarily. So Carver as a character did actually improve for me, which I liked, and I enjoyed their little fun dynamic. I thought it was a good little, I thought they were good scenes together. But also, other characters who had good scenes within these scenes were Barry and Nash. I thought Barry and Nash, their moments, you know, whether in the CCPD and, you know, the mirror version of Singh shows up to transport Carver into protection, and obviously Barry knows this is the mirror version of Singh, so he can't trust him, and Singh offers him a deal. He says, you know, if you let me take Carver, we'll give you Iris, and Barry actually considers it for a moment, and Nash actually has this sort of epiphany where he kind of just steps in, grabs Barry, full-on Batmans them out of there, and I thought that was really fun, because, you know, Nash and Barry kind of have this scene where, you know, Nash is saying, you know, I heard the other Wells speaking to me, and they said that Barry that they knew would have never considered that deal, and Barry is kind of just at a point now where he's been without Iris for so long, he's lost her at this point, he just wants, he will do anything to get her back, and even he considered trading Carver's life for hers. And I like the fact that even Nash brings it up. He says, you know, what happens when we get Iris back? What are you going to say to her? How do you think she's going to feel when you tell her that you traded another person's life for hers? So I thought it was a really good moment. It was nice to kind of bring Barry back down a bit, because he was kind of high intensity, so I thought it was really cool for Nash to have those moments, and it's just kind of further cementing Nash as a really good character for this for the show, especially because this is likely the final version of Nash, or the final version of Wells that we'll ever see, so I enjoy having these sort of moments to develop him more as a character, especially because, again, he has that connection with Allegra, which I'm also enjoying, so I think that these moments just added to that even more so. Now, Ralph and Sue also have some moments in this. We actually have Ralph, while investigating the warehouse that Carver had, he actually finds all the information and leverage that Carver has on Sue's parents, and he actually brings them over to his office to let them know the good news that that has all been destroyed. But Sue actually then shows up and says, oh no, it's all been dropped, it's all been fine, Carver has let me go and everything like that, it's all good. And that was quite a funny scene. I enjoyed their sort of dynamic, because again, Ralph and Sue are always quite funny together, and I'm very pleased with how that relationship has turned out thus far. I'm excited to see where it goes. But we find out later on that it's actually, the reason why it's all been dropped is actually because Sue actually offered to switch places with her parents, so she is now a member of Black Hole serving with Carver, and she is using that for her own means in order to kill Carver. So this was interesting. It's kind of pointless in the end, this kind of twist, because you know, by the end of the episode, Carver's gone anyway, so it's kind of pointless. But, you know, it was interesting enough, and again, it was quite a funny scene. But it kind of all culminates in the fact that Sue actually gets framed for the murder of Joseph Carver, so obviously Carver does die in this. I'll get to that a bit later, but yeah, Carver does get killed in this episode by Eva, but Eva actually ends up framing Sue for the murder, so that is going to be sort of her storyline going into Season 7, which I think is a really cool idea, especially because, again, it does kind of add a bit more to her joining Black Hole and her attempting to kill Carver anyway, so it kind of just, you know, it's kind of like if Ralph hadn't stepped in, she probably would have killed him anyway, so her being framed for the murder, it's kind of a nice follow-on from that, and again, I think it's a good story for her, and probably Ralph will obviously get wrapped into that as well, which I think is a really cool idea for Season 7. Now we have these nice, more tender moments between Frost and Carla Tannhauser, which I really enjoyed as well. Obviously, Carla being Caitlin's mum, she comes into this to try and help Frost out. Obviously, Frost is still injured from the battle a few weeks ago. I really enjoyed these scenes. I think it was really nice to have these two bond, because obviously this isn't Caitlin, this is Frost, so it's a different character. And to have her and her mother kind of bond in that way, I thought was really nice to see. Obviously, this was Caitlin's departure from the show as well. This is actually Caitlin leaving for now. Obviously, she's not gone forever. She will be back in Season 7. But this was just her leaving. Like, you know, if the episodes would have carried on as normal, Caitlin still would have left here anyway, just because Danielle Panabaker was, of course, pregnant during the filming of this season, and this was like the last episode that she filmed before she had to go, so this was going to be Killer Frost and Caitlin leaving anyway, and they were nice scenes. I really enjoyed them, and again, the scene with her and Barry at the end as well, where she says goodbye to Barry, was really nice as well, so really good scenes with them too. I enjoyed them a lot, and again, I think Frost has had a really good arc this season. I really enjoyed her character overall, so I think this was a nice ending, and I'm excited to see where we go next in Season 7 with her when she eventually returns. Now, the big climax of the episode is we have Eva eventually coming into McCulloch Technologies and killing Carver. Now, this basically sends Eva into the realm of being the main villain for the rest of the season, or the beginning of Season 7. This was something that I predicted. I've seen a lot of people actually really shocked that Carver was killed off here. I was not shocked by that at all. I actually predicted weeks ago that this episode would be where Carver gets killed, and this in result is Black Hole being ended. So Black Hole is basically no longer a thing. It no longer exists, as Carver is now dead. So Eva is now the main villain, and I've got to say, I've really enjoyed Eva this season. I think she's been great. I thought she was a fantastic villain. I like how it's been a slow build. I enjoy how we were kind of second-guessing her throughout the entire season, well, at least in the back half. We didn't know kind of what she was trying to do, or if she was good, if she was evil. And what I kind of like as well is that she isn't really that bad. I mean, yeah, she killed Carver in cold blood, so it's pretty bad. But it's, you know, she even says to Barry, you know, we're on the same side here. Like, this isn't really, you know, I'm not your enemy sort of thing. I don't want to fight you. I will if I have to, but, you know, I'm not going to. And I enjoy that. And I think she's going to be a really cool main villain. I think that really works for her. And also, she is basically, obviously, the new Mirror Master, and she's great as the Mirror Master. Like, a great new suit. I love that suit. It looks great. I wish we could see it more in color, like fully in color, because of course we only really saw it in like with like a red hinge over it with the lighting and things like that. I want to see a full sort of body shot of the suit in really bright lights and stuff like that, because I imagine it looks great. But she looks really cool as the Mirror Master, and I can't wait to see what happens next with her. Then we have Team Flash eventually reuniting, and we actually have Joe return. So Joe shows up again. I don't really know what the point was of having Joe gone. I mean, he was basically just gone for an episode. I mean, I know he was in witness protection, but he was basically just gone for a week, and then he came back. Because he was even in last week's episode, which was, like, really bizarre. Or was it the episode before that? Either way. The point is, he was back, and then he comes back in this one as well. So Joe is now back properly. Now that Carver's dead, he was basically like, yeah, they, you know, lifted the protection detail because, you know, the person who's trying to kill me is dead. So Joe's back, and that was nice to see. It was cool to see him back, and it's nice to have him back on the team. Again, I mean, I predicted he'd be back by Season 7 anyway. I mean, I will admit, this week he was back sooner than I thought he was going to be. But still, really glad to have Joe back. He's a great character, so it's nice to have that. And then the sort of mid-credit scene, you know, cliffhanger for this sort of season, I guess, is we have the Mirrorverse, and we have Camilla and Iris. They actually find Captain Singh in the Mirrorverse. So that's what Iris has been trying to do. She's been trying to find Singh. Obviously, we've had the mirror version of Singh out in the real world, so that means that the real Singh is in the Mirrorverse somewhere. And she finds him actually in the hospital, so that's where he is. But then this eventually leads to Iris going through some kind of, I don't know, stress, and we see her just dissipate. I don't know what this is. Obviously, this is like the cliffhanger, like what's happened to Iris. I mean, I don't really know what this is or what this means or what happened to her necessarily. Because she basically just, again, she like dissipated and dissolved, so I don't know what's happened to her. So who knows? I mean, obviously they did actually add in, I'm pretty sure they would have added this in after they finished the episode, but, you know, they added in a little card that said to be continued, which I've never really seen on The Flash before, I don't think. And I think that's basically them confirming that, yeah, all the stuff that happened in this episode will be continued into season 7. I think they added that in at the end just to kind of like let us know that. Including, you know, so that includes this stuff with Iris and also with Eva and things like that, and the Sue stuff. This will all kind of carry on into season 7, and at least will be addressed within the first sort of handful of episodes, 3 or 4 episodes. So, you know, I don't know what's happened to Iris, but I'm very interested to see what happens, especially because this storyline with Iris in the mirror, I know a lot of people that haven't been a fan of it, or people have felt it's been really dragged out. I've actually enjoyed it. I think it's given Iris a pretty good story. Like, even though it's not been the story I would have necessarily written for her myself, obviously I would have gone with something a bit more, you know, journalistic, like it was in the beginning of the back half of the season, where she was kind of tracking down Carver and tracking down Black Hole. I would have just kind of carried on with that. It's still a good story nonetheless, in my opinion, and I've enjoyed it, so I'm excited to see where it's going to go now. So overall, I thought this was a really good finale, a really strong finale for The Flash. I think it does a lot of good stuff. Again, I think it wraps up the stuff with Black Hole and Carver really well, and this kind of kicks off into the final little arc for this story, which is Eva being the Mirror Master and kind of being the main villain. So we're going to see where that goes. Of course, Sue being framed for the murder of Carver. I'm excited to see where that goes and how that will affect both Sue and Ralph. Frost also leaves the show for temporarily. Iris, something's happened to her, whatever that is. So I think this actually serves as a really good finale. Like, I think this does work as a finale. Obviously, it doesn't feel as final as most finales do, but you can't blame the writers for that. Like, this isn't, you know, what was intended. So, you know, given what we have and given that this is the finale, I think this works. I think it does a really good job. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And again, I think it has a lot of really great moments. That fight seems great. I just think this does some really good stuff. So for me, I'm going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. I thought it was a really strong one. And for me, I think this is a really good finale. I've seen a lot of people saying this was a bad finale, and to be honest, I don't agree with that. I don't think this is the worst finale of The Flash, which is kind of crazy given the fact that this isn't even a finale, really. So, you know, for me personally, I thought it was a great episode, so I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. So just a quick thing as well I want to address at the end of this, just before I go. Normally with the shows, I do kind of big season reviews at the end of them, big, you know, season overview sort of things. Obviously I did, you know, the big half-an-hour one for Arrow Season 8. I'm probably not going to do that this year with The Flash and Supergirl, purely because I don't really think it's fair to kind of do an overview of the whole season, given the fact that you know, the seasons weren't completed, the arcs weren't completed. Because obviously that would be a criticism. It'd be, well, you know, this wasn't finished, this wasn't wrapped up, this is left hanging. But again, that it's not their fault. And I feel like that's just mostly what the video would be. It would be like, oh yeah, well, we had this storyline, but we don't really know where it's gone. So I don't really feel like it's a, you know, necessary video to make. You know, I don't hold my word to it. I might end up doing it. But as of right now, I'm planning to not do season overviews for The Flash Season 6 or Supergirl Season 5, just because I don't really think it's fair to judge those entire seasons and do big season reviews when, you know, they're not really the whole completed season. So, you know, that might not happen, just so you guys are aware. I will be doing a season overview for Legends. Legends Season 5 did finish all of its episodes, so I will be able to review that as a whole season. And also, I haven't really reviewed Legends that much this season, so I kind of want to do that just to give my overall thoughts on the season, because I haven't really reviewed the individual episodes. I reviewed a couple here and there, but not the entire season, so I'll be doing that. But in regards to The Flash and Supergirl specifically, I most likely won't be doing big season overviews, so just so you guys are aware. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I also want to thank you for sticking with me throughout The Flash Season 6. Obviously this is another season, and it's great to kind of look back at that entire season again and just realise that, yeah, we've been through a lot with this season, and it's really cool to kind of look back at that. And kind of the journey that this channel has had as well. Of course, I was going to leave the channel behind, and then I didn't. So, you know, this channel survived yet another season of The Flash, so that's really cool. So I want to thank you guys for sticking with me this season. Also, let me know your thoughts on this finale in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on this season as a whole. Did you think this season was good? Again, you know, even though I'm not going to do a full season overview, I thought this season was fantastic. I loved Season 6. I thought this was a great return to form for the show. show that it's needed for a long time. I think this is the best season since Season 2. I'll probably do a Flash ranking. I'll probably do a season ranking. But yeah, I think this was a great season. So let me know all your thoughts about the finale, the season, everything to do with the Flash Season 6. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, guys, if you want to see more Flash content and more Season 7 Flash content, be sure to stay tuned and hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss any content from DC Central. And hope to see you guys again next time and my next Flash video, which will be for the Flash Season 7.